Welcome to the Constance Lov Johnson Show. Today is the day after Thanksgiving, and it's been an interesting week. Sometimes when you attempt to grow and promote your skills as a woman, it drives people crazy. You see people acting in ways you've never ever imagined, and you're just trying to do what you're called to do and just trying to fulfill the work that you've learned, that you've trained to do, that you've done all your life. And it is a sword fight with great envy, animosity. It's amazing. Today, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about women who have walked the same path that you're walking in trying to reach your goals as a woman, and they have overcome. And they're not in a place that benefits them. They're not in a place where people are working for them and working to make sure they succeed. They have allies in places. They have the experiences they need. They have even mostly the funding they need. They certainly have the skill set they need. But the world is not accustomed to seeing people with those bodies, those faces, and that femininity coming through to do the work that God has asked them to do. And that's what it is. It's not easy. It seems that it would be. They're doing positive things, and everything that they build turns into something positive that helps people grow and expand to do better in their jobs. Everything that they do brings about positive results, and regardless of what people see through them, they work diligently to block them, to cause them obstacles. From my own experience, I have seen so many computers hacked and destroyed. I don't know how many computers I've had to just, sit to the side until I can figure out what I can do for them. Many of them I had to throw away. It's amazing. Today is an interesting day, but it will not impede us. I promise you that. These trying times will build us stronger and make the world around us more peaceful and give other women easier opportunities, better opportunities. So I want you to know that the show today, the day after Thanksgiving 2021, we call it Black Friday. This is when we shop for all of our favorite things for half price. But I want you to know that the investment that's made to give us the freedom, our economic freedom, to enjoy this day is a hard road to travel. It is a road that is sometimes bumpy, that we have to smooth out ourselves. But fortunately, we are equipped to handle those obstacles, and we are made to succeed. So let's talk about the powerful women in Congress. And I want you to remember, I'm always giving you an opportunity to review materials. I believe in scholarly learning. So I'm a teacher, former teacher, as you know. I believe that when you're educating your community, I always have. When I was about in my early 30s, I decided to publish a magazine for my city called City Political Magazine. And it highlighted the elected officials in our local government, state and federal government. And I gave them a platform to advertise for campaigns, to talk about the issues of the day. And I so enjoyed working with my staff, writing those articles, collecting those ads, and putting forth a great publication that gave everyday citizens a chance to understand politics. And now our city, this was a time when, just a handful of Black Americans were running in my state for offices. They were running for, I guess they were running for state, local offices. A couple were running for federal office. But now the districts are opening up and Black Americans are running in all races. And it's exciting. And I feel honored and privileged to have been able to provide the resources and some information to our local citizens to know the dates, the responsibilities, the qualifications they needed to run for office. And I've been engaged in politics for more than 20 years or so. So I'm excited to run for the U.S. Senate in 2022. We start filing in December. I can't get the FEC to be fair to me, but we're going to get that taken care of. Usually, I'm a techie. I built my own newspapers myself when I ran my newspapers. I created technology, publishing technology, to make it easier for my staff to engage in the building of the publication when I ran it. And we ran a monthly political publication. And doing that really gave us a sense of unity and a better and greater understanding of the political process. So I'm excited today to have put my hat in this ring. I have great experiences in politics. I have worked with congressional members. I have worked with city council members, state officials. I've run for state office and have a good understanding of what our citizens need to participate and engage in politics or in government to make their lives better, to build their communities, to be more engaged in helping each other. And I'm very proud of that. But as I said, it is a daunting task for women. So let's talk about the PowerPoint on the website. Go to the website. There is a picture there that's called The Powerful Women in Congress. Click on that link under that picture and it'll take you to the PowerPoint. That PowerPoint was hacked so bad, it took me almost a whole week to finish it because of all of the issues I'm having with hacking. And I think I downloaded a good source today to keep the PowerPoints more accurate according to how I write them. The articles and the pieces in the PowerPoint should be quite a bit more accurate from now on. Let's hope and pray that they will be. This is a different kind of election time. We can't just run. We have to make sure if you're not a techie running for office, you are going to be destroyed. There's no way around it. So make sure that you get some good protection for your computer systems, because this is the era where information will not be the same information that person wrote initially to provide you if they don't have internet security to keep their officials safe. I saw my spouse. He's one of my challenges going through this process. But I want you to know that it is very important to know that we have different issues than men when it comes to reaching our goals as women. We have challenges that come from everywhere, every side, family, spouses, friends. It just changed overnight. That's what we experience. We're not trying to be better than anyone. We're trying to fulfill everything that God gave us to fulfill. And it is really, really a challenge. Being an elected official means that you write bills that you feel will best change and correct issues of the day. And when I am your senator, these issues will go away. I will put my time and effort into making sure that hackers are persecuted with a higher degree of severity, and I will make sure that women are better protected as wives, as spouses. I will make sure that young women get the same type of educational opportunities that boys get in sports and in every area of employment and entrepreneurship. These are issues that are very important to women, and it's extremely difficult to get these kinds of bills passed. Even the ERA has issues with passing bills. But this bill that needs to be passed for the ERA is extremely difficult to pass in most states. But we will get them passed. I promise you that I will work diligently, tenaciously to pass these bills that protect women, to protect their work, their home lives, and their social lives, to give them the same opportunities. We're going to make it, and life is going to be quite a bit better, and equity will be a source of we're going to succeed in bringing equity to women. We are. We have the same intellectual prowess, and we have to use it. And the world will not grow economically, and the world will not succeed without acknowledging the beautiful contributions of women. And that is what the show is about today. We're just going to peruse some of the women that have made amazing contributions to our country. And this really focuses on Congress. It focuses on the beginning up until today of what congressional women have to do to engage the entire Congress, the House and the Senate, in supporting the bills that are important for everyone. This is a world built by everyone, every gender, every race, and we have to be proud of every accomplishment they've made, and it has to be done with equity, economically equal, and making sure that they have the same support, financial support, that the government gives men. So we're aiming for equity. So let's start off by talking about powerful women in Congress. Campaigning. This is just a quote I wrote, just something I wrote to remind you of some of the hurdles that women have to experience. There is a higher hurdle to climb as a woman pursuing the Congress. America hears the words U.S. Congress, U.S. House, and U.S. Senate, and envision a man filling that seat. These women listen to the hissing and doubts from family, friends, their spouses, and former allies, and jump right over them. If a woman is not endorsed by a man of stature and does not look like Goldilocks, the media runs past them to the one that does. These women win anyway. And here they are. Power in the House. Women fixing the world. Dedicated to this particular page and this particular area of the presentation that you're going to view on the website is dedicated to U.S. Representative Shirley Chisholm. And she was born 1924 and she died 2005. She was the first black woman elected to Congress. She was Jamaican born and a powerful speaker. She inspired the nation This is I'm reading from the slides that were hacked, but the slides on the page should be easier to read than the ones I have. And I'll even go back again tomorrow to make sure that those pages flow smoothly, the words flow smoothly on each slide. But Shirley Chisholm, in my view, not even having to read the slide, was one of the most amazing women. She engaged in activities that were not going to bring her to a greater level of empowerment to help women and to help the nation move forward when it came to equity. But she engaged in a presidential campaign. Of course, being the first black woman, her bills were never passed. She was attacked on many occasions, not physically, but when she walked into the cafeteria to eat, no one would sit with her. These are painful, hurtful responses to her leadership, to her constituents. Very adverse responses to her constituents. They worked hard to get her in office, and you have thousands and thousands of people voting for her, expecting our United States government to abide by its Constitution, and they would not support her as the Constitution outlaid. They basically did their best to ignore her. But this is the mindset of her colleagues and peers in the Congress. And these were the best of the best we had in Congress during that time. And it was quite challenging for her. But to make sure they understood why she was there, she ran for the presidency and was the most dynamic speaker the world had really seen. She was a woman determined to make her nation better. She wanted her United States of America to set an example for the world when it came to women, when it came to black Americans. And I'm so proud of her. I'll always be proud of her. And I'll always do my best to walk in her footsteps. Very outspoken, spoke according to her will and what she felt God wanted her to say, and stated it with pride and with great intelligence. So I thank Shirley Chisholm for her courage and her great will to overcome those obstacles. Jeannette Rankin was the first woman elected to Congress. Jeannette was from Montana. I lived in Wyoming and spent a lot of time in Montana. Montana and Wyoming are tough places to live. These are mountainous states with wild animals roaming, plenty, a multitude of all types of wild animals roaming that ate human beings, that even today eat human beings and are still wild today. Yellowstone National Park is where I spent a summer between college and graduate school and stayed there for 3 months, and I enjoyed every minute. I experienced some of the activities that those citizens engage in up there. I went rafting, of course, and hiking in the wilderness, not knowing if there was a bear around the corner. It's a pretty exciting time. But Montana's a tough place. So, of course, our first elected woman who was the first woman elected to Congress, Jeannette Rankin, was here running for office in 1916 and arrived in 1917 to the Congress. And I'll go through a quote for each of the women in the presentation. But one of her quotes was, If I had my life to live over, I would do it again, but this time I would be nastier. Now, she didn't even know Janet Jackson at that time. Janet Jackson was born 100, in some years, not 100, I'm just joking, but around what? Probably 50 years later. But she said, if I had my life to live over, I would do it again, but this time I would be nastier. Men and women are like right and left hands. It doesn't make sense not to use both. Very, very interesting. So women gained the right to vote after she was elected. So men elected this woman to Congress, Jeanette Rankin. Women could not vote until 1920. And this was a great celebration and emerged based on a tremendous amount of work from women around the country. The war had a lot to do with the enacting of the suffrage movement, giving women their right to vote, because of their engagement in keeping the nation active and in supplying the needs of our troops and supplying the needs of the nation to keep our economy moving forward. Women played such a significant role that they won the right to vote. And of course, these votes came strictly from men and one woman, Jeanette Rankin. Where are women in Congress now? Where are women now in Congress? 36 women entered Congress for the first time between 1935 and 1954. A tumultuous 2 decades that encompassed the Great Depression, World War II, and the start of the Cold War. Today we have 120 women in the U.S. House of Representatives and 25 women in the U.S. Senate. When Kamala Harris, then a U.S. Senator, was appointed to the vice presidency, she was the sole black woman in the U.S. Senate. Now she is president of the Senate. The nation has depleted the committees of black women because she has now moved from being a U.S. Senator to the Vice President of the United States. We don't have black women serving on the committees because she was the only one. So now we do not have a black woman in the U.S. Senate serving on the committees. That has to change. I believe that we will change it. If you give me your votes as I am running for this office, we can make it happen. There are Val Demings is also running in Florida for the U.S. Senate. I believe we can make quite a difference if you give us your votes in North Carolina and Florida. I believe we are the only two states that have black women running for that office. So make sure that you vote for Constance Lov Johnson for North Carolina and Val, V-A-L, Demings, D-E-M-I-N-G-S, for Florida to win these races, to make sure that black women have a voice in our U.S. Senate. The first woman Speaker of the House in the history of this country is Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Patricia Pelosi is the American politician. Well, we all know that. This is always listed in all the descriptions of people who are in office. They're a politician. It's like, we know they're a politician. That's why we're looking at this page. But she became the U.S. Speaker of the House in 2019, and previously she served as she is a representative from California, and she's been a representative since 1987. She is, of course, a member of the Democratic Party, and we're very proud that she is our first speaker first woman Speaker of the House. Her quote is, "There obviously has been a brainwashing of this country of what power should look like." I love that quote. Power is 100% intellectual. You know, when you have to reach for a weapon, it should be in self-defense, not to just run around the cities hunting people down and hurting them and shooting them and killing them because you feel that it's your duty for some reason. You know, your duty is to maintain peace and to allow our police force to handle issues or allow an attorney to handle controversial issues between you and another person. It's not up to civilians to pick up weapons and go out hurting and harming other people. Even when you're so angry you want something to change your situation and nothing is moving, you're still going to need a lawyer, a mediator, someone to address your issues. It's what determines or what distinguishes civilized people from lunatics. So this is something that is very important for us to understand, that power is not might. Power is intellectual. And that's what I love about politics. Politics resolves problems without using might. And that's what distinguishes civilized people from lunatics and violent, crazy people. And we have to remember that. We have programs and systems that solve problems in peace, with peace and civility. Maxine Waters, U.S. Representative Maxine Waters, is an amazing, powerful leader. Maxine Waters has gained a great reputation as a fearless and outspoken advocate for women, children, people of color, and the poor. She was elected in 2018 to her 15th term. Well, this is not what I wanted to state, but I'm going to let you look at the PowerPoint, and it provides you with dates that our elected officials entered Congress, and it provides you with other information that's focused on dates that are date sensitive. But she is a representative of California, and she is the first African American, Black American chair of the House Financial Services Committee. Her quote is, "Women are prepared to run for office. They are prepared to show up. Oh yeah, women have big roles to play, and they have stepped up to the plate already." That's right. And I believe that there is another quote there on the updated slide that gives you some a clearer understanding of how she feels about women running for office and the discriminations that women and people of color experience when they're pursuing these offices to make a difference for their communities. It's so important to be diverse because not everyone understands the issues and the experiences that communities are suffering. It's important to have a representative from every community in that House and Senate to better explain what is happening from the inside out and from the outside in. There were times throughout my life when reading about an issue or reading about issues about a community or in a community were not enough. I needed to go and walk through that community. I needed to walk into some of their churches to find out what I could do to help and what the differences were in the school systems. I had to walk through the schools and teach in the schools. Sometimes being a theologian and being someone who studies the works of Jesus Christ and studying the works of some of my ancestors, like Shirley Chisholm. She's not my direct ancestor, but she represents my community. Her community is very similar to the communities that I grew up in. And watching these women and men, try to solve problems. Sometimes God sent me to these people just to walk through and experience them for myself, not understanding that their situation is far more severe than mine and it requires more. The budget here needs to increase and encompass all the money that needs to be contributed to this or budgeted for this situation in a particular community. And sometimes we don't know why this community suffers more, but it could be budgetary. So we have to send someone to experience those issues that we don't have in our own communities. And when we can't, we have to make sure that we have citizens directly from that community that can come and explain, or who can run for office and sit on a council and explain, who can run for the U.S. Senate and explain, this is not fair because your budget is already fully supplied to cater to your needs, but you're not providing the same opportunities for this community over here that desperately needs those funds. So sometimes it requires someone to run for office from every community to make sure that we understand why. And if not, have someone on those boards, on the city council board, on the county commission board, on the state board, on the federal board, or on congressional committee. We may need to bring them in to testify. We may need to develop a new committee. We may need to assign a committee to focus on some of the needs of these communities. So this is what is so important about having diverse people on all committees. We need to hear from every side. U.S. Representative Debbie Wasserman. I love Debbie Wasserman. I first learned about her work when she was chair of the DNC. She was a Democratic chair of the party, and she did a marvelous job. She had so many challenges because she was a woman, and doing this as a woman comes with a great deal of challenges, but she did an excellent job. Her quote is, "We are, as a Democratic Party, really highlight and emphasize inclusiveness and diversity at our convention. And so we want to give every opportunity to grassroots activists to be diverse and committed Democrats, to be able to participate, to be a delegate at the convention." So she wants every culture, every race to engage in this process, from joining a local party, running for city council, joining a local party, to joining a state party, to joining the DNC and participating in the DNC as a delegate. That's very important to her. And it is very important to us. It's very important to all people of all cultures to participate in the full process. I have friends who participate in caucuses, political caucuses, and participate in local party activities. But I have friends who participate in caucuses that never ever work with local parties. They don't enjoy it. They don't feel welcomed in the local parties. It's a very competitive atmosphere being in a political party and running for office. And it's not something that everyone wants to do. So some people, they vote in primaries and general elections, but they never participate in the party activities, not locally, not in the state party or the national party. But it's just as Wasserman just stated in her presentation online. She really would encourage everyone. She really encourages everyone to participate in all levels of the political process, because it really helps you to understand how to best take care of your communities at every level. Really, the local party is supposed to cater to the local officials and the local candidates. The state party is supposed to focus on the state candidates and state officials, and the national party is supposed to focus on the federal candidates or the congressional candidates and officials who are elected. But we're all over the place, a little unorganized. That's one thing I would like to do as your U.S. Senator. If elected, I will certainly bring greater organization to this process. It's extremely confusing right now because it's not organized right now. And I know that we have, now the DNC runs like a river because we have great leadership, and he's run for a congressional seat and knows what the challenges are and has a beautiful system in place. It's called Mobilize. And this system runs beautifully. And I think that if we circled around him as our leader and really focused on him from the local level all the way up and being directed by him on what to do for local candidates and local officials, what to do for state candidates and state officials, everything would flow and everyone would understand how this process worked. But I know that we'll get there. I promise you we'll get there. Sometimes it takes thousands of years to get to where we need to be to understand the process and to make a community and society work. But we never stop challenging our systems to be better. So I know that we'll get there. U.S. Representative Karen Bass is an amazing leader. She was initially, an official coming out of California. And she was also chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. But she writes the most dynamic bills. She wrote the George Floyd bill, which was not passed, but it was an excellent bill which would have given us guidance and structure on policing. We can still make that happen, I believe. We still have problems. We still need our congressional members and the Department of Justice to focus on our system of policing. We need to make sure that our Department of Justice focuses on the prison systems to make sure that people are not being unjustly incarcerated. This is just too many issues to address in 5 minutes. But that bill would have really given us a way and a process to start the work on our policing system and on our whole Justice Department, our whole system of justice. Joyce Beatty is now presently the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. She is out of Ohio and is someone who is dynamic and energetic and energizes everyone around her. So I look forward to putting more time and effort in studying the work of the Congressional Black Caucus. And this organization has been a phenomenal source of information for Black Americans interested in political science. They provide scholarships to college students who are majoring in political science or who are interested in politics. And they keep Black Americans abreast of the information and the most important and key issues before Congress. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I always admire her work. She's someone who is so astute in her bill writing and in her speeches. Highly skilled speaker. She's a highly skilled speaker. And what's interesting about Cortez is that Ocasio-Cortez is that she is not one who is, she's not one to back down from any issue of importance. And when you see her, you stop because you want to hear everything she says. She's so engaged and so enlightening. She has an energy that is magnetic. And when I keep saying, I am calling on these women to guide me through when this election is over, and if I am elected, these are some of the women that I will turn to for guidance, for information. I want that energy to rub off on me. I'm already really energetic. This is what I have in common with these women. We're all extremely energetic, and every day we wake up with the same drive and the same eagerness to make a difference for our country, for our states, for the cities and towns, for the people who need us. And that's why I've always been that way. Active and energetic in church and running all over the country, making sure that the church is doing what it needs to do. That's who I am. I've always been energetic. And that is who she is. She is extremely energetic, and she projects energy. And that's what America needs right now, especially after this pandemic. But she is an amazing leader. Now, people are going to be shocked that I chose Liz Cheney as one of the dynamic congressional members of today. She is a Republican member of Congress, but she has a courage about her and a truthfulness in her soul that I admire. She is someone who speaks the truth, and she's not afraid to speak the truth. You find most of these congressional members running behind someone else, whoever the leader is, and I know that's important. Infrastructure is important. I will always, as a senator, as a U.S. senator, I will wake up every day determined to understand what President Biden wants us to do and wants me to do as a senator. I will do it. I will not hesitate to get it done from start to finish with great quality. I don't have a $1 million budget right now, but the U.S. Congress does. It has a $1 trillion budget. Well, let me rephrase that: a $28 trillion budget, really. But I will always fulfill the work that I am asked to do. But the wonderful system of the U.S. Congress allows those elected to understand the needs of their individual states and address those needs. That person needs to be engaged in all types of industries and fields and have a good understanding of how to acquire that information and engage in the leadership of those fields to understand it better and to provide solutions and answers that really solve the problems. I mean, not to be guessing or going about trying to figure things out yourself, but to galvanize people to gain the information needed to solve problems. So that's what I love about the Congress, that each member has a responsibility to fulfill the needs of its state and the needs of the country. And there are specific guidelines and procedures in place to make sure you stay on task. But my goal is to bring a truthful answer and a well-researched, scholarly answer to my constituents, to put forth the bills that can solve the problems, that President Biden can sign into law, that he can enact to make sure that they are put in place. And I really admire that about Liz Cheney. She is a Republican. Joe Biden, our president, is a Democrat. But she will not allow anyone to move her away from what she believes is the truth. And that's what I admire about her. We're all going to pursue, as senators are always designated to please that whip. The whip is responsible for galvanizing the members of Congress to focus on the task at hand, to focus on the party's objectives. And of course, that's what we're going to do. But, if elected, I am absolutely going to oblige the whip. I am going to do everything I can to ensure that our president can reach the goals that are set in place. And I am going to always be an honest and truthful person. However, there are times when I may have a view that is different from what is being posed by the Republican Party or what is being posed by our Democratic leadership, and I will state it. If I'm voted down and I feel that it's in the best interest of my party to move in this direction, that's what I'm going to do. If I see that there are people who are in my party that violate the rights of citizens, I have to state what needs to be stated to make sure that citizens' rights are protected. But that's what we have to consider when our views are being challenged, that are either ethically wrong or ethically right. And when people come to bring you information and bring you solutions, my ethics will not allow me to hurt other people intentionally, to oppose them, to have power. My objective is not to be overpowering people and forcing people to do what I want them to do. But my objective is to hear what the constituents need and to oblige them, to make sure that they are heard. One issue that I watch in her party, in Cheney, the Republican Party, I watch Cheney make statements that are not in the same line with some of her Republican allies. But it pains me to think that, because the constituents in her state feel differently, that she has to be ostracized, she has to be ignored, she has to be made to look like she is not doing what is in the best interest of the party. So I admire her for always standing up for what she believes in. I think her dad, is Dick Cheney, Vice President Cheney. He was the same way. He stated his beliefs and stated what he felt was right, and people admired him for it. But she is a woman. Her father is a man. And sometimes that's this is a part of what we're discussing today. Sometimes because someone states something differently and is a woman, it becomes a pretty challenging experience for women. We're not always respected in the light that we deserve, and not always given the opportunity to speak what is truth, what is truthful to us. But we have to continue forth, and we have to state what we believe is right. We have to do what we believe we're purposed to do, and we have to listen to our constituents and follow through. Val Demings is also on this presentation. And she is, of course, from Florida, Orlando, Florida. And she is running for the U.S. Senate. Look for her name. She has a unique name, Val, V-A-L. I keep spelling it, D-E-M-I-N-G-S. She is a very powerful and engaged representative, and cares deeply for people of color, and cares deeply for all people, and makes outstanding statements that we need to listen to. And she has great ethics. So I really admire Val Demings, and hope that you Floridians remember her and support her in this upcoming year, in this election this year. This is going to be an interesting year, and what's really key is that you put your vote in the primary election. If you do not vote in the primary election, those that you oppose will win. There are two sections. We all know that there are two processes that you have to experience to make sure someone is successful in a campaign. You have to vote in the primary election, which is usually around March or April. This year is going to be March 8th in 2022. So on March 8th, make sure you look for Val Demings in Florida, Constance Lov Johnson in North Carolina. March 8th. I think I have it on the sign here. It might be backwards on the film. But March 8th, 2022 is the primary election date. And the general election date is November 8th. They're usually the same dates. Whatever month is, whatever month the primary election falls in, is usually the same date. March 8th, November 8th. March 5th, November 5th. That's a little trick that they play at the Board of Elections. Now we'll talk about some of the senators and the difference between the House and Senate. There's a two-part vote for every bill, and if it starts in the Senate, it's going to end in the House. But 9 times out of 9, it starts in the House. Well, 9 times out of 10, I would say. Maybe 8 out of 10. It starts in the House. The House, they usually write the bills. That's pretty common, even though it's not set in stone. The Senate, the senators write bills, of course. They have committees, the same types of committees, and the same process that the House has. Bills are submitted, they go before the committee, then they go before the chamber to get the majority vote and move on to the next chamber to get that vote, and then it goes to our President Biden to be enacted or vetoed. So remember that system. But as we were talking about the senators, I want to dedicate the Senate piece of the presentation to Kay Hagan. Kay Hagan and I knew each other. She was a U.S. Senator when I was the public relations chair of the Black Political Caucus, and I worked hard for Kay Hagan. Kay Hagan and I ran for the state Senate when she was running for the U.S. Senate, and we were having gatherings in Statesville mostly because that was my region. And she was so wonderful. We had lots of challenges coming together. They were blocking this. They damaged if you knew all the experiences that women have running for office, you would gasp. But we don't give up. We're not people these women and we don't run from anything. We have to move forward. We watch how people change their attitudes. We watch how people try to impress upon others about our inabilities. We go through so much, but you you press on, you do your best to share the knowledge and information you have, and you really you stay consistent in your communications with the community to make sure they understand how serious you are and the level of work that you'll invest upon being elected, and the challenges that we're facing as candidates. They're challenging once you win the elections, but you need to have the fortitude and the fight, not necessarily the money, because money, once you get to the Senate, once you get to the Congress, you're paid a pretty decent wage. It's not the money that will get in the way. So, fundraising is very important to some who don't have any money, but who don't have money to use in campaigns. But it really does not apply at all to your work as an elected official. When you become an elected official, you're paid a pretty decent salary, I believe around $174,000 a year. And you have the materials, staff, office. You have everything you need to make your work feasible and to bring your work to fruition. So it's a beautiful opportunity for people who love to serve other people, to bring solutions to fruition. And this is what these women do every day. They work diligently to bring solutions to fruition, meeting with you, talking to experts, and making it happen. The goal is to put the person in office who will work diligently to make it happen, who will not simply say, I am a governor, I am a state senator, I am a U.S. senator, and nothing ever happens. But you want the one who will get in that office and move and get that work done. And that was Kay Hagan. Kay Hagan and I were both Presbyterians. And she was always very inspiring to me. When I initiated my first campaign, I didn't listen to her. I pulled out because a person entered the race that I greatly admired. And I decided that I'm going to go ahead and let her pursue this office, and decided not to run. And so I didn't run for office until later on. But Kay was there to tell me, you're doing a great job. But she was hoping that I would not run as an unaffiliated candidate. It was too hard. Run as a Democrat. She wanted me to run as a Democrat. But I went to her beautiful funeral, and I didn't know that the last time I was going to see her was at an event. We were at an event in Greensboro, and she was there to say a few words, but I was late for another event. I wanted to go to both events, and I didn't even know Kay was going to be at that event. So I said, I should stay here. There's Kay in the place. I should stay here to take a picture with her and talk to her. And I said, well, I got to get to this other event because I'm expected to speak at the other event. So I looked at her, and I just stared at her so that she could see that I was looking at her. And she was becoming very frail because she was very sick at that time. And so that was the last time I saw her. We stared at each other from a distance, and I knew that she was proud of me for running. You have to. People don't understand this in politics, but you have to understand that you may have to run 5 times before you win an election. That's today's number. I have colleagues that have run around that time. I haven't run that many times yet. But it's an issue where you stay persistent until you get to the office that you're supposed to serve or that you're supposed to work in. Some people are not supposed to work on a local level. And so they run for a local position, they don't win, and they think that they're not supposed to be in office. But you are supposed to be in office. You're just not a local official. Some people are supposed to be state official, not a local official. And some people are supposed to be congressional members, but not a state official. People feel what you're supposed to do in office when you're in political office. They can look at you and say, you're really a U.S. Senator. People tell me that all the time. They've told me that all throughout my, when I ran for the state Senate, I ran for superintendent. People telling me, you're a U.S. Senator. And so finally I'm listening, and I'm running now. But Kay Hagan was just a great person, and she was a U.S. Senator, and she served a term, and then she passed away. But we love Kay, and I hope she's shining down on me. I feel like she's guiding me. Sometimes I feel as if she is very proud of me and what I'm doing. So it keeps me inspired and keeps me moving forward. This lady, Kamala Harris, is in just, everyone is so excited that she is our vice president and president of the Senate. Every vice president is president of the Senate. That's a role that you must play as vice president. It gives the Senate a great opportunity. If you are of the same party as the vice president, it gives you a good leadway to communicate to the president through the president of the Senate. So it's a great process, and it was a great idea, whoever created that the vice president of the U.S. president is also in charge of the Senate. So that's why the Senate has favoritism from the president usually, because the vice president is right there in charge of the Senate and breaks all ties that are, when the votes are tied, the vice president breaks that tie, which gives today our Democrats a great advantage. So Kamala is, of course, was a U.S. Senator and is now our vice president. But there are 25 women to 75 men in the U.S. Senate today, and that's where we are today. Only 2 of the women in the U.S. Senate are from the South. So most of the women in the U.S. Senate are either from the West or the Midwest or the North. Only 2 are from the South, Mississippi, and I believe the other one was, I can't remember where the other one was. But one is Mississippi and one is Georgia, I believe. So I should have written that down. But President Biden promised to appoint a black woman as Vice President of the United States, and he kept his promise, and we're so thankful for that. When I first heard that his statement that he is appointing, and the news media, of course, stating that he is going to appoint a black woman, and he started showing the women who were going to be appointed, I had a feeling it was going to be Kamala Harris, but I had been looking at this other candidate who was a man, and for some reason I thought that he would choose him because he kept showing up. And when he chose Kamala Harris, it's like, ooh, that was a great choice. I didn't even, I'm looking at all of the women who are running, and I didn't see, I didn't feel confident about the women that were running, or that were they couldn't run, but the women that were in the lineup to receive the appointment. But when he chose Kamala Harris, I said, oh, that's a perfect choice. It's just, she is a U.S. Senator and was a prosecuting attorney. Just, it was just like a light went off. It was, and I said, she's going to be just so perfect. And then I started looking at her speeches and looking at her work. Me, I'm going to research everything. I'm going to find out everything I can to make sure that the citizens are not just listening to the biased media, because media can be so biased. So I always try to give an unbiased view of candidates or people who are going to be appointed. I try to provide the community with as much as possible about that person. That's what I do for my community. And I have a publication. It was City Political Magazine, which was a publication that was city-based and was a publication that was, outside of the county as well. It kind of expanded around Mecklenburg County. Was saturating. I saturated Charlotte, North Carolina, with probably about 250,000 distribution, and it was just a publication that focused on people and issues, and so I really started studying Kamala Harris and found out that she was a great lawyer, and then the state prosecutor and prosecuting attorney, and just felt that was just perfect. It was like that's just perfect. So I'm so honored that President Biden would make that decision to choose a black woman as vice president and shock the world, and then watch this brilliant woman emerge to become one of our greatest. And that's how we're looking at you. Don't pay any attention to the media, Kamala, because they're just jealous. These are just jealous men. That's all, that are making these comments that discourage you. You are doing you are blowing people away with your brilliance and your charisma and your great energy. And we love you for that. And keep going, keep moving. We're behind you, and I hope to work with you. I hope to be in your Senate. That is the goal of life right now, is to and forever will be to serve in your Senate. I would be very proud to say that the rest of my life that I served in Kamala Harris's Senate. I know that I will make a difference to my state, and I'll make a difference to the country working under you and working with those great senators that serve us every day. So thank you, Kamala Harris. We are so appreciative of your service. It is a huge, huge sacrifice, and we're just honored that you're there. And you're a great role model, just a tremendous role model. You have opened so many doors, we can't even count them. So I thank you so much. And that is the same message that is on the second page that focuses on Kamala Harris. We travel with her from nation to nation and from state to state as she manages the responsibilities with the same effort and diligence as President Biden. Both are daily reminders of the work it requires to keep the nation healing and thriving. And we thank you so much. We thank you, President Biden, and we thank you, Vice President Kamala Harris. Elizabeth Warren. Now, we're just talking about energy. Elizabeth Warren has the energy of 7 people. That's what she has. I went to Massachusetts, as a part of spreading the magazine that I publish around the country. That was the goal, and it's still the goal. The plan is to build a national magazine that furthers the education of Black Americans and all Americans about the political process. That's my goal, to make sure that understanding that process really allows you greater opportunities for economic growth and greater understanding of how to make change in your community, and understanding what bill does what, how to submit bills, how your congressional member changes your society through bills, what you can submit to make sure this is repaired and this is fixed. That's the political process. And the more you know, the more successful you're going to be at it. So I went to Massachusetts to work with a couple of people. I went to Massachusetts for a march, and I went to march 50 miles to a gun factory with a group of young people, high schoolers, some were in college, to just make sure people understood that violence will not be tolerated in this country, and that we need to lower the number of guns that are sold in the country. And I walked those 50 miles with some of the most amazing leaders that are going to emerge in our political process. I know in the coming years, some will come out this year that I marched with, and I'm going to. I grabbed Elizabeth Warren's T-shirt when I went to the political event there in Massachusetts, and I wear it all the time because I really admire her. She's a great leader, and she is very astute in all issues. And I went to the mayor's conference in Massachusetts and sat through her speech there. The Secretary Walsh was the host of that event in Massachusetts, and she was a speaker, of course, and it was a dynamic speech, and it was the most amazing event. I keep saying that. I know Secretary Walsh, I keep saying that, but this was really a beautiful event, and I hope that Secretary Walsh is organizing some kind of conference for us now to educate us in some way about labor. We just want to go to the conference because he just, he puts great events together. And we just want to go to the event that he's hosting. That's what you want to do. Of course, labor is very important. We're there to learn as much as we can. We'll come to learn as much as you need us to learn about the process of labor, the perils of labor, and the joys of labor. But you really want to be at any conference that Secretary Walsh puts together. Okay, I'm saying it again. Okay. So Elizabeth Warren is one of our great U.S. senators. Dianne Feinstein is from California, representing California. She is a U.S. senator, and she is chair of the International Narcotics Control Caucus. And I've watched some of her presentations as chair of that caucus. And I love that she's so open-minded about some of the initiatives, especially in the issue on marijuana, on cannabis. She is very open-minded but very serious about what kind of restrictions will be placed on those who are in the business of selling cannabis, and every side of every side of narcotics, and every side of control, the controls that we'll need. She is the chair of that committee, and I think she is a co-chair. And she is always been one of the most dynamic senators we have. She is fearless, and she states it like it is, and she is somebody who we can always depend on to tell us the truth. That's those of us who are engaged in politics know Dianne Feinstein, because she's so dynamic and such a great leader. Our last leader that I'm highlighting tonight, is Amy Klobuchar. I cannot pronounce her last name. I never can. Every time I try, I just mess up. But Klobuchar, that's it. So Amy Klobuchar was, of course, a presidential candidate. So was Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren was a presidential candidate. And Amy Klobuchar was a presidential candidate. And she is out of the state of Minnesota, a Democrat, of course. And her quote, I think I forgot to mention Feinstein's quote and Elizabeth's quote. So I'll go back and read Elizabeth's quote. Elizabeth Warren's quote is, "You built a factory out there. Good for you. But I want to be clear. You moved your goods to market on the roads that the rest of us paid for. You hired workers that the rest of us paid to educate. You were safe in your factory because of police forces and fire forces that the rest of us paid for. I love that. I love it. We take that for granted as business owners. We don't, we're complaining about this and that, and the government has paid for most of what you're using to build your own income, your personal income in your businesses. So it's time to pay is basically what that, in my opinion. She probably didn't say that to support the corporations paying their part of the taxes, but it's a great argument for that. And Feinstein's quote is, "Let the record show that you can be a United States Senator for 21 years. You can be 79 years old. You can be the chair of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence and one of the most recognizable and widely respected veteran public servants in your nation. But if you are female while doing these things, men who you defeat in arguments will still respond to you by calling you hysterical and telling you to calm down. They'll patronize you and say they admire your passion, sweetie. But the real deal, but they deal in facts, not silly, girly feelings. It's inescapable. You can set your watch by it." Isn't that awesome? Awesome. Amy Klobuchar, her quote is, "Women tend to be problem solvers. We work together." Beautiful. I went over my time a little bit, just about 15 minutes, but I wanted to make sure that all of these powerful women in the Congress were highlighted. These are the women that I learned from. I read their bills every day. I don't read all of their bills every day, but I read their bills, the bills of the Congress, every day, and do my best to interpret them for my readers and those who are reading my posts on social media. I can be a little zany sometimes about some of the things that I'm experiencing, but the stresses sometimes move you to want to express exactly what's happening. When I see the media bullying these women, I start writing, okay? I start writing and telling the truth. Media can sometimes want to influence you as readers or you as people who, social media, read social media. They can try to influence you just to gain some attention, just to get the numbers that they need to reach on social media and the number of readers they need to reach and the advertising dollars they need to reach for the month. So I'm not influenced by any of those things. I provide newspapers free of charge to my readers, and the funds come from advertising sales. And I have not been pursuing advertising sales because I am in a campaign, and I don't want, what I'm doing is generating my revenue from, first of all, my spouse has supported me for about 2 years through my superintendent's campaign and through this campaign. But this is something that would arrive without a campaign. If I didn't have a campaign, it'd be the same thing. But I want you to know that my goal is to build businesses for Black Americans right now, because the numbers of contracts that are awarded to Black Americans are so discriminatory and the disparities are so high that we need to start being concerned about losing ingenuity, innovation, and genius from Black Americans. I think all of these groups that are considered within the minority group in the United States have been robbed. And we have to fix this. When these circumstances occur, when one group is receiving 90% and the other groups are splitting the other 10%, something's going to go wrong. It has to. And my goal right now is to balance the economy for minorities, namely Black Americans who suffer the most when it comes to government contracts, local, state, and federal contracts, and corporate contracts. So that's where my heart is. And what we do with our company is to partner Black businesses and other businesses to make sure they have the starting fees they need to receive their vendor numbers, because they're very expensive. Vendor numbers can range up into the thousands of dollars. So if vendors don't have those types of dollars to invest to get their vendor numbers to even apply for contracts, to register for contracts, our company, Black Community Financial, provides you with that opportunity, and we can partner and work together. So that's what I'm doing right now. And of course, I am running for U.S. Senate to make sure, I'm running for the Senate to make sure that I can be there to have an impact on your economy and to put forth bills that will become acts and laws, plans and programs that bring us together, that unite us in our effort to balance the economy and unite us in our efforts to be socially civil and peaceful. That's why I'm running, and a multitude of other reasons why I'm running. But I have a whole book of bills that I'm ready to submit to make our world a better place, our country a beautiful place. It's already beautiful, but to bring our country to a more unified status, and to make sure that my state is number one in the country. That's my goal. Thank you so much for watching this evening. You know, I'll be there next Thursday. My goal is to get this to you every Thursday, but sometimes I run into issues that prevent me from getting there because I don't have that Senate staff yet. When we get that staff and get some of the other grants and contracts that we need, we are going to make a tremendous difference and provide you with a beautiful professional show from a studio. That's the goal that I have in mind. So I want you to remember to always tune in every week to the Constance Lov Johnson Show. We'll focus on some of the issues that you prefer. If you send them in, just send me an email, send me a text to that number on the website, ConstanceLovJohnson.com, and I will take those into consideration. But thank you so much for listening today, and call me, text me, email me with your questions and your comments. I love you. I love my state. I love my beautiful country, and God bless you. I'll see you next week.